So thank you all for coming here. Yes, I know you both. But a lot of you are first timers. What brought you here? The food, maybe. And when Ajay sent out the invite, he'd put like a champagne glass or something. But there is no champagne. There is no alcohol. We are a healthcare company, so that's not there. But how did you guys come here? What brought you here? Okay. Cool. Are you entrepreneurs yourself? Do you have an idea that you want to be? How many are already entrepreneurs here? Like, yes. Oh, nice. Okay. All right. So we really wanted to do this for a long time. It is Ajay's pet project to kind of create a community for the startup ecosystem, because I spoke about this morning also that when I started off on my own, like I was in your place, right, where I was thinking that I want to make a change and I want to do something on my own. I did not have any kind of a community with whom I could just speak, like, is it even possible? What are the challenges? I didn't really have any mentors. I just like took the plunge and started off. So we wanted to start creating an ecosystem because we have such a beautiful space and then we can arrange for food and some drinks. We thought we should do this and start making this bigger and bigger. And when we thought of what topic we could speak of, I was like, let me pick the one that I'm most comfortable with, which is culture and creating your own team. So my journey a little bit is, it's a long story. I'm going to keep it as short as possible, but it started off with my own personal journey into taking care of my health, trying to fix my health problems. Because I had an autoimmune condition, doctors weren't able to help me and all. So I started doing that for myself and I could really figure out how to do it quickly, how to reverse whatever I was going through. And then family and friends started reaching out to me because my Facebook profile picture started changing. Suddenly from somebody who was 97 kgs, I was looking leaner and leaner as the months went by. So people were like, whatever you did for yourself, we want it. So that's where really my idea got validated, that something I was doing for myself, people were willing to exchange some kind of energy for it. And that energy was money, which kind of made it a business. But people were willing to pay me in exchange for getting their health back, right? So for me, I didn't do like a lot of startups. I've been part of the startup world as an HR person for a long time, and there's always this product validation and what is that? Like they'll create some products. Value proposition, and they'll test it first, build it again, test it, and a lot of time goes in that. Luckily for me, what I was offering was so valuable that I didn't have to test it too much. People started off partnering with me for their health. And I operated like that as a solopreneur for nearly 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. I've known you since 2018, I think, where I used to live in Airbnbs and I used to order organic food from you guys. So thank you so much for saving my life then. But I did that for 2 years, and then one of my clients, I didn't know who he was. For me, everybody was just like a client. I wouldn't go research their backgrounds, but he saw the power of what was happening with his health, and he asked me what did I really want to do in the future. And by then I had developed this vision of healing 1 million people. So when I told him I want to heal 1 million people, he was like, I hope you realize you can't do that alone. So I was like, yeah. And he was like, would you want me to kind of invest in your startup and help make it big? I was like, yeah. Like, why would I say no to that? So that's how the journey really began, of going from a solopreneur, a nomad health coach, nutritionist who was wandering all over India and Canada and Egypt and all of that, decided to come back and start a company here in Pune. And it was his willingness to believe in my vision. That's our first investor. His name is Rajesh Ranawat, who was a client. His willingness to invest in this, because he actually saw the outcome of what I was offering, right? So it wasn't me just pitching to an investor saying, here is the product, here is the idea, here is how it's going to change lives and all of that. He actually experienced it firsthand, and he came on board with the first round of funding. So to me, I think really as an entrepreneur or as someone with a startup idea, it's a really beautiful way to go about it, right? Because if you're just trying to sell your story to someone without them experiencing it, the journey gets a little harder. He's a mentor for startups. He does a lot of work around fundraising, so he might know that as well. I think I was lucky also to a degree. So that's the first time the investment came in. From there, this entire idea of, oh, now I have to create a company and hire a team and all of that started happening. So, I mean, I like nutrition. but I'm really passionate about the culture and the team. So if I had to spend my time more, I would actually spend more of my time on this stuff, this office and the people inside it. So how did I go about that, right? And again, because I've been part of so many startups in my previous HR career, I've seen how startups come up and then crash, because especially the tech guys are so obsessed with their technology, they very rarely think about people. Everything is the app, everything is the UI of it, everything are the features, everything, right? They forget that actually people are working on it and they are the ones who are creating that app for them. So I've seen startups really crash because the founders got burnt out, or because they didn't really have an idea of how they wanted to scale the company as they went about. And I did not want to repeat those mistakes. So one of the things I did, and I would urge every entrepreneur to do, every startup founder to do, every potential startup founder to do, is even before you register your company, answer the why does your company exist, because that was very important in terms of what are we going to do with this money. So I answered that why, like why is this company here, what is the vision of this company. I put that down, and the second thing I did was I wrote down what are the values that are non-negotiable for this company, right? So you'll see those values that are printed there, so it's a reminder for everyone, because what I realized is without a certain guideline on people and how they should operate while they're working as a team. Human beings are human beings. Sometimes they can be absolutely wild animals, and that wildness can actually rub off people in the wrong way, and it can impact the overall company. So I made this list of values, and those values have literally been what has guided us as a company, as a team for the last 3 years. Whether it is hiring someone, whether it is firing someone, whether it is taking up a client, whether it's letting go of a client, whether it's coming up with a new vertical like the supplements division, whether it's coming up with the academy, every time we've cross-checked our decision making with those values. If it aligns with the values, if it aligns with the vision, only then we say that, okay, let's do this. So that is what really started creating this basic culture. And now we have a culture where we have people who apply to us saying, I'll do anything, just take me in your company, right? So because it's like getting spoken about. Our team is talking to their friends, telling them how it is. We went to Goa for a 5-day vacation mid-March, when all other teams were focusing on year-ending, closing sales, and like everyone was getting really, really stressed out. We went to Goa for a 5-day vacation because when I think of people, I want their optimal potential out, because that optimal potential is what really takes the company ahead, right? So this entire growth journey has been immensely people-driven, aligned to the vision. And any questions, I mean, I can keep talking for the next 2 hours about culture, but any questions, anything you want me to talk about, I would be happy to answer that. How is somebody else going to do this work that I'm doing, right? Like, how do I transfer the knowledge? That's where he played a big role. So he's Avinash Deshmukh. Ajay will also introduce him more formally, but he takes care of operations. So he brought in a lot of systems and processes that helped transfer what is here into the team. So now we have individual amazing nutritionists who know the basics of how we do what we do, who are very aligned to the culture, and they create the same magic that I was able to create, right? So it was a lot about also hiring the right kind of people. And initially it would take us up to 3 to 4 months to train someone before they could start working on clients. And we solved that problem we saw that as an opportunity. We started our own academy because we would hire a nutritionist and I'd be paying them for 3 to 4 months before they could actually work on client cases. Like, why are we paying people to learn from us? Why shouldn't we take money from people to learn from us? So we started the academy, which is now in its, like, it completed 1 year in Jan. We've trained, I think, about 90 students so far. So we hire from the academy itself. So they're completely armed with all the knowledge we have, and they can start working on client cases immediately. So training, the right recruitment, ensuring they align with the values, and our top value is turn customers into brand fans, right? So because the vision is to create healthier, happier, lifestyle, disease-free communities across the world. So how do we create communities unless we have brand fans in every community. So all the nutritionists are extremely aligned with this vision and the values, and they do the work, and we have like endless client lists going on. So
Thank you, Mugdha, for such wonderful thoughts. Okay, so we have Kunal here. Kunal is a founder of White Collar Legal. So he's been into startup ecosystem for a long time. He's also been an angel investor. He also guides startup on funding, whatever round of funding they're raising. Also, he's a CS, company secretary. So he also looks after the legal aspect of funding.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. Nice to be here on a Friday evening. So I've been working for about 9 years, running my company, and whatever I think iThrive has achieved in its short span, I was very slow on the learning curve, and we took a lot of time to scale up to build those processes. But some of you I have seen earlier, and I'm helping you guys also. So rather than sharing stories, I'll just share some common threads as to what makes a startup in a scalable sense different from a business that is in a traditional sense. So I would say four major reasons, and why you can get funding very easily also. It's really not attributable to luck or timing. There are certain common characteristics. So we have raised funds for about 48 companies now. The lowest was 8 lakh rupees, which was a family round, and the highest was about 200 crores, or $24 million round. So, and the common points remain the same. So the first common point was that all of them sort of had a good background into what they are doing. So if you are planning to do a startup, because the opportunity is pretty good, right? There is, like, people use quotes that it is not the opportunity in the gap, it is a gap in all that is fine. But if you are not an expert in the area you are trying to solve, you can't outsource it. So that is the first learning I had, and that is when I got a call from Avinash. I was working with a previous company I was associated with also, and I started reading about Mugdha ji, and I saw her profile, right? It comes as a reflex. So when I saw her profile and saw the kind of work she has done in this space, I knew this will work, right? Because you can't fake knowing about a problem and knowing about a solution. So I think that is the first question you need to ask and answer, that are you, from your life experience and product or service experience, qualified to do this startup? Very important, and you can't fake it, right? That's one. Second is very important again. Lot of founders I've seen do not scale up after, say, reaching a certain level. In India, if you notice, 90% of the businesses stop at 20 crore turnover. The entire Gujarat, Rajasthan, they don't bring anything on the books. But overall, people don't scale. And there are three reasons why. One is, and I would like you to spend more time on how do you hire the right people. So if you're not able to sort of create those processes and make your startup run without you, while you focus on making the product better, you focus on the R&D aspect, and you focus on scaling into new geographies, it's not really a startup in the true sense, right? You're doing a traditional business and you're growing month on month. So I have now working with clients who have raised funds in 41 days, right? He's incorporated in December 18, and on February 14, Valentine's Day, he had his first check. And the reason was, he came from a background. So if you've heard about Sybage, so Mr. Nathani, so he started a company, and because of his experience, because he knew how to set up those processes, how to identify which are the key areas for any business. For example, for Credibly, the key areas are, how much a person spends, or what is the typical size of a student wanting a loan, so many things. Shrishti's business is completely different. So you need to understand what are these key areas and keep tracking them. One good example comes to my mind is, in the share market, whenever there is a correction in India or US, a lot of promoters never offload their shareholding. If you have noticed, the market reacts, the market sells the shares, but the promoters keep holding on, because they are not driven by sentiments. They are driven by actual numbers, internal metrics that they keep tracking. That is why even I remember Jeff Bezos saying that even when his stock had dropped 41% in 96, Amazon stock, he actually bought more rather than selling, because he saw that number of deliveries are increasing, a number of pin codes are increasing. For example, in India, e-commerce guys are raising funds not because of profits, but because of the number of pin codes they are able to serve. Anybody knows how many pin codes are there in India? We have 19,000 pin codes, and Flipkart at the moment serves only 4,000. So if you look at the opportunity, I will definitely put money in Flipkart even though there is zero profit, because the opportunity is too huge. So as an entrepreneur, can you think on that level, right? And scale up. So that is the second thing what makes a startup a real startup. The third is, and this is something that I usually follow, are you really paying attention to the client, or are you going into your own loop? Own loop is when you surround yourself with people who are yes men, and you forget what the customer wants. You don't have a feedback cycle, you don't have a rating cycle, and basically then the startup starts internally working on products and things which nobody wants. So too much focus on market survey and research really is not very useful. I feel a startup should be driven by what the customer wants. Customer will have some needs which he will tell you that I need this, and some needs which you need to figure out, right? So a good example is Apple, right? Apple says that we don't take any reviews, no feedback. We anticipate what the customer wants and gives it. But I feel Microsoft is a better strategy where you do both. So if you're not connected to your customer, and yeah, so this is the connecting to the first point. As a founder, I feel you should be a service provider and a customer, so that you know both ends of the startup spectrum, and that really helps. Even I started my firm because my first startup was a coaching class, and I used to do about 2 lakhs a month in my coaching class. And when I went to professionals to incorporate, to scale it up, to structure it, I got really bad service. That's when I, became a service provider and, got into. So, have you faced that problem is the number 3. And number 4, I think it's a common thread by everybody that you need to have some people who do not possess the skill you have. So I realized this, I think, in my 4th or 5th year, where I was trying to do everything by myself with my team. A percentage of the revenue went to salary and all of that. But the moment I got partners on board, so I have 4 partners today sitting at different places, the growth was fabulous. So I think more than funding, finding the right people who are good at something that you are not good at is extremely crucial. It's like a marriage only. So I think these 4 elements will make a startup very successful. And yeah, more we will discuss maybe when you have some questions or in the panel later on. So funding, typically, I think all of us, it has become a social validation, right? If you have a funding, you are considered successful. But please understand, a lot of people start companies because they want flexibility. Like, I'm sure a person like Mr. Avinash, who comes from a corporate experience, wants flexibility to do things the way he wants it, no protocol, no reporting. But the moment you think about funding and getting a third person, all that is gone, right? So you have flexibility to a certain extent, but then there will be certain performance milestones. You will have to report every month, to the investor that we used your money like this and it led to this result. If it is not good, what are the remedies? So funding, I think the first mindset change all of you need to bring is it's not free money, and there is no free lunch. So you will have to be accountable. And if you are a little disorganized, or if you are a person who does business by impulse, right? I am in the mood today, I don't feel like, your startup won't really work. And the investor community is very small. So in Pune, I would say honestly, there are 18 people who are influencing and who are investing. So once your name in the market is that, oh, this guy is not serious enough, your future rounds of funding will not happen and the future checks will not come. So if you are ready to be accountable, I think you should go for funding. If you are ready to bring those kind of systems, processes, because funding happens at different levels. So in the start, people might believe in your vision. People might believe, like you as a person, and therefore invest, say, 25-50 lakhs. They will not really go into the product, into what is your research, nothing of that sort. So the first round is typically not very tough. It's a story round, right? If you're a fantastic storyteller, and if you have a good background, if you're from, say, a very good college or you have good corporate experience, you will raise the round. But the subsequent rounds will happen on numbers. So the storytelling won't really help, and you will have to perform. So I would say getting the right set of people who can track different things, can help you achieve those different things is very critical. I think in iThrive also, the kind of vendors they have onboarded, I help them with the legal stuff. So the kind of vendors they have taken for different things are experts in their own rights, and that is why the formula to scale is going to be very good. So as an investor, I'm very safe, right? I'm not investing in either one of them, but in the company. So even though if mood changes or they get better ideas tomorrow, my investment is pretty safe. So the more rounds of funds you raise, the stricter your books become tighter, the kind of professionals you work becomes better, and overall structure comes. So every startup which is doing firefighting today will become a boring business tomorrow, which is and some people don't like that, right? The moment a business becomes boring, immediately the entrepreneur in them wants to start something new. So he's exactly that material. So yeah, so I think it's good that your business will become boring one day. That is the goal. And and in India we have a curse, right? Many of us are not able to open branches abroad. So whenever you travel abroad, you never see an Indian brand. Only one brand you see, Kingfisher. So credit
No, but that's a US brand.
US brand. So Kingfisher you see everywhere, right? So as a businessman, maybe he's ethically not very good, Mr. Malia. But from a branding perspective, from a distribution perspective, from an awareness creation perspective, is fantastic. Another brand I think I saw in Singapore once and UK once was Cafe Coffee Day. Again, a tragic story when it comes to the founder, but the way he has grown it and scaled it up. So I think all of us have to have that approach, that one day you will scale, you will bring in processes, and you will go into those places. So funding, mostly when you receive it's a problem, first world problem. Second and third round, it is a reverse pitch. I have seen in most cases where there are multiple people wanting to back you, and then you choose which money you want to take. Is it smart money, dumb money? So a lot of people take money from jewelers and real estate and other people, and they end up suffering because they don't understand what repayment is and how it works. So I think it's a very customized approach, just like when a person has an issue, you customize the plan for the person. I think funding is very similar. There cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. So that's it.
You missed one brand that's abroad everywhere.
Yeah, but now the problem with, I'm working with, you've heard Vico, right? Vico Vajran. So when we went to them and we said, we can raise $1 billion for you, right? You're such an old company, your products are so good. But that need of losing control was not there. They did not want interference. And the same problem I have with, say, Natural Ice Creams, another client of mine. 700 crores turnover, not a single 1 rupee of external investment. Chitle Bandhu, family owned, they don't want to scale. So a lot of people, see, one hand you have this typical success metrics, right? $1 billion and some people just want peace of mind. And I've seen typical people in Pune value peace of mind more than $1 billion valuation. So I think that's a very individual call. So
Founders obviously come to you for funding. They ask for a certain amount. How do you decide, what is the appropriate amount? Of course, we've all watched Shark Tank. That's another story. But from your experience, how do you deal with it? Which company to choose? You spoke about that. But how much money to put in? How do you go about that from a funder's point of view?
I have had 2 clients who have raised money on Shark Tank, Event Beep and Alpino Foods, peanut butter brand. 35 crore turnover. Event Beep was doing 2 lakhs every day. Lot of them fail in the due diligence exercise. Whatever they are saying in the pitch, reality is completely different. Sometimes numbers are forged. And 4% deals actually end up happening, where Ashneer actually writes the check and it goes to the account. Others are all so that's the reality of Shark Tank. Not all deals are closed. You cannot just, not do anything, come with an idea to the table and expect the investor to take all the risk. He needs to see that you are equally there or more than investor is there. That is number 1. Number 2, do you have a customer whose problem you have actually solved? That's, I would say, very, very critical. So that expertise of who your customer is, what his problem is, and what the solution is. At least that solution 1.0 should be ready. With funding, you will, implement a better product. Your app will get better. But your number one, it's called an MVP, the word you were searching for. Minimum viable product should be there. So I would say at least 5 customers serviced properly if you're a B2B, or 100 customers you have serviced B2C, with a turnover of I think 15-20 lakhs, you are good. You have some traction, because that storytelling nowadays does not work, right? If you have some numbers you need on the books, that is number 2 what they see. Number 3, I think culture they will see. I'm very surprised that you used culture 4 times, but nobody really talks about culture in fundraising. It's very important. If you have an investor who's very nosy, I have usually met people who come from backgrounds where they have built a business which is not education centric. So they have come from very sad, poor backgrounds. They have not education wise they are not very good. They will interfere a lot in your startup and ask you for reports every day at 7 p.m. and you will feel yaar maine kyun liya paisa iska. So for you, when you take a partner, co-founder or an investor, seeing that can you chill with this person? After your business meeting is done, can you have a drink with the person, healthy drink with the person?
Nariyal pani with the person.
Yeah, nariyal pani. Can your family and his family sit down and talk about cricket? That if that is not there, it is going to go south, and you will borrow money to return it to him. This is so important. What happens with a lot of founders is the moment they see a check being written or a term sheet from the investor, they just pounce on it. Because see, startup is a very lonely journey. She's not sharing it with you. It is very lonely at the start. You have, and a person who's good always has an opportunity cost. She could have worked with a hospital, opened her own nutrition consultancy. She would have made a few lakhs easily. But why is she leaving that? There is risk, right? So that cultural fit, the investor keeps checking that is it gelling, right? Are you both personality wise matching? And 3 I think I gave you main.
You also look at the founder's age?
Not necessarily nowadays. So numbers speak the loudest, the results speak the loudest, as I can say. So I'm now working with a company. The founder is ex-CEO of Praj Industries. So he's 61 years old. He raised funding we got a term sheet signed for 2 months and he was able to close it within 15 days. So I would say age is, powerful. If you're older, it's more powerful in the startup world. People think it's a young industry, but the average founder's age is 40. Data driven. So don't go on your story and social media.
Can you give us examples of companies that are profitable? Because wherever we have seen funds coming in, those companies are usually showing losses. So what is this equation? I want to understand that.
For us, the gestation period of getting a return is very low. So our mindset, right, is अगर आपने 10 लाख लगाया, you immediately compare it with Infosys share, gold price, this, that, FD, and उसके ऊपर नहीं मिल रहा, you feel that I have failed, right, because the money has not come. If you traditionally look at how investments are made, the normal period is 5 years. All the big guys, venture capital, Blackstone, even when you invest in real estate, you never sell the flat after 2 years, right? So profitability is one of the metrics on which funds are raised. Most of the metrics are the opportunity size and how well you are sitting to capture that opportunity. Like I told you, the e-commerce game. I have one friend, I don't know if some of you must have heard of him, Pradeep Lokhande. You heard of him? So he's rural relations, yeah. He's connected to 59,000 villages and his house is a post box address. Hindustan, Unilever, Nestle, all the brands are after him that आप हमको ये 59,000 villages में लेकर जाओ, because the opportunity is at the bottom of the pyramid. All big companies are serving the bottom, not the top. So I think profitability is really not a concern, because the person who is investing in you has made his money. वो आप end of the year में आके आपको नहीं पूछेगा कि 15 लाख profit हुआ, मेरा 30% है, तो you give me 4,50,000. He will never do that. What investor wants is his share of 14 rupees becomes 70 rupees. And that 70 rupees becomes 120 rupees. That's all he wants.
For me, when I started off, I was doing this alone, right? And I was like making money for myself, and I always had enough to kind of travel and everything. So from the beginning, my focus has been on unit economics because I don't understand this Paytm, Zomato kind of models कि user के ऊपर बढ़ते जा रहे, valuation is going up, but actually they have no money. So our focus here at iThrive, like even our revenue goals month on month, is always that if the investor decides to take their money back, we will continue to pay salaries, we'll continue to pay the rent, the electricity bill, the internet bill. So operational profitability is something that we focus on every single day. Because I can't have my business threatened by somebody saying that Acha, I want my money back now, because I'm quite a rebel actually. If some of you follow me on social media know that, right? I don't go with convention. I've broken a lot of stereotypes and norms. And I don't know what I might try to break in the future. So I can't have somebody saying that I've put in money, now you follow, like behave like this, behave like that, right? So as a person, I want to be independent of that sense of security or then that kind of control. So I've always, like, it's a personal decision, and he supports that idea as well, which really is why we can run this so efficiently, that we will always be operationally profitable, right? Our salaries, our operational expenses will get covered by our own work. The money that comes in from investors goes towards developmental work. Now we want to make an app, or we want to invest in the new line of supplements. So Yash wants to make 50,000 supplements this year, right? That needs money. We invest in like research and development and formulation. So the funding money goes into research and development, it goes into marketing, it goes into doing things that we wouldn't possibly be able to do with our own revenue. But as a business, I'm not dependent on their money to run my ship. My ship generates, it has its own fuel. And that's why for me, if, like 90% of our revenue, it's insane. I thought that kind of organic scale would not happen that kind of organic referral would not happen as we scale. But to date, from day one till now, maximum revenue comes from referrals. As we've scaled, our work has continued to bring us referrals, right? And that's why my top value is turn customers into brand fans. So most startups don't think of profitability. They just look at user base increase and valuation increase, right? But this is more stable because you're not swayed by somebody else. So that's my perspective to like a profitable business. Secondly, investors are gamblers. They'll put money in 10 startups thinking that 7 are going to fail. Those 3 that do well is going to give them all the money back that they put in those 10 startups. They really are, we did our first round of funding, the second round of funding, we had more investors come in, right? And it's really a little bit of a gamble, like a risk appetite that they have, because like he said, they've made their money. They have the money, right? Like they're not doing this to like create more and more wealth for themselves that they can do on their own. So it's a game they're playing. So they have an appetite for risk, a huge appetite for risk. They go in with the knowledge that some of these are not going to work. Very few of these are going to work. If yours is the one that works for them, they bring in more of their friends as you keep scaling.
So I think one point rightly made was you cannot use the investment money to pay salary and rent. That you have to at some point become operationally profitable. It's okay to not take also. Like I said, I have so many clients who are in that 500 to 1000 crore turnover range, and every day big guys come in. So recently one of our clients got an offer from Temasek. It's Singapore's biggest venture capital fund, and the deal was so good it would have made the founder a billionaire. He did not take.
So if let's say I now don't need your investment, I have too much of money and I want you to exit, for example. So what are the different exit plans which are there, or is there any?
So see, exit plans are pretty simple. So if you're the founder, you can buy my share back at a certain premium valuation. I can sell it to a third party. You can convince me to sell it to a third party at a certain. There are different ways of raising investment also. The most popular is a compulsory convertible debenture, where suppose you have a company and you need 1 crore rupees. I will give you 1 crore on a condition that every year there will be an interest charged of 15%. And after 3 years, 1 crore principal plus 15%, 3 years compounding, that amount will convert into equity shares. So there are different kinds of exits based on the appetite of the investor. So what I do typically is, whenever a client of mine is getting investment, I lock the investor for 3 years. Because what happens initially, if you don't get success, the investor should not have cold feet and take the money out, right? The founders will be high and dry. So that lock-in is important. But once the lock-in is done, you can't tell the investor, हमारा projections गलत हो गया और थोड़ा 50 लाख दे दो. If he is nice, he will give you. So in the pandemic, we saw that, lot of investors, even though the business could not reach milestones, invested more money because they sympathized with the founder.
See, there are investors who are extremely focused on returns. They don't care about how you run your business, right? And then there are investors who are aligned with the vision. Like luckily for us, we found investors who are aligned with the vision. So that accountability thing and that reporting thing that you were speaking of, I actually have a huge leeway with that because they trust me. They trust the integrity and authenticity I have. But I really think sometimes it's a matter of luck finding an investor like that, right? Because how much due diligence would you do about a person beforehand, knowing how they are? They'll tell you about all the investments they've made. Very rarely would you get to speak with the other startups that they've invested in, right? Even if you speak to other startup founders where they've invested in, these guys are not going to tell you like the gory details if there are any, because he is their investor. So conversations, right? Before you agree with anything, you have to first know why you're doing this and who you are and what are some non-negotiables, values, vision. Talk to them, like he said, right? If these are people with whom you can sit, meet their families, see the other side of them beyond their business perspective, and connect with them, right? Like they understand why you're doing this, like why you're willing to give it all and not take up a job. Those are the investors you want to work with. To me, it's that. I mean, there are some who go number driven.
Think like marriage. You don't marry the first girl you meet, right? Hopefully. Boys are bichara so desperate. So. But if you're a nice guy, you will not marry the first girl you meet, right? You will go on a few dates. You will check for some red flags, personality issues, mental issues, whatever. And then you will marry, right? So date your investor. And the best way to date is you go on a long trip with him. So when I have investment in my company, nobody knows. I had taken 50 lakhs long back when I wanted to buy a flat. So I approached the only person I respected a lot in my industry, Mr. Nitin Poddar. He is a family friend also. And I always liked the way he has handled his life. Right? He does philanthropy, invests in startups, writes books, very all-round personality. So when I went to him, we ended up spending, I think, 6-7 hours. It was a 15-minute meeting. And I really liked the guy. I said, with him, I can spend a lot of time discussing anything. So when that kind of a personality match happens, you know that it will work. And see, this is fine, personality and all. Then what happens? Then their lawyer will come in. His lawyer will come in. And things will get serious, right? If you have no numbers, if you have no product, if you have no solution, all that does not help. But just don't be... there is a lot of money now in the market. So don't accept the first offer that comes. So I remember one startup who had come to me and I had set up an investor panel for him. So he was raising his third round. He asked the investors to introduce themselves. So, it's such a great position to be in. So yeah, let them come to you is better strategy. Otherwise what happens? Up LinkedIn pe, you'll just reach out to them, send pitches. Hardly it gets closed like that. So, and I have seen this, that the first investor, if you're a really good startup, your own co-founder will say, yaar, isme maza aa raha hai, family se 10 lakh laga dega. Your own CA will say, ki sir, mera bhi 5 lakhs le lo. So the moment your model is good, all these people will start supporting you.
So I had been to this one of previous Saturdays ECHI meetups, and what they did is that they did an mock pitching in front of a investor panel of 4 people. So there were really great startups. Majority they were in tech, but what basic question at the end of every pitch the investor asked is that what is your customer acquisition strategy? So, what is the expected answer to hear that investor would favor that answer and
As a doctor or a lawyer, what is the best customer acquisition strategy? We can't do advertisements. We are like alcohol, no? You can't advertise alcohol. So what do? We go to speak at different events, we write a lot of articles, we publish books, we give good service, then they refer us to other people. That's the customer acquisition strategy. For them, what is the strategy? They will take, say, influencers. So there is a guy who I know, FitTuber, you must have heard him, 6 million followers on YouTube. You reach out to him, talk to him about your supplements, give him a few samples, give him some money, you get 6 million subscribers who is listening to your product, right? Mamaearth became such a big company only because of influencer marketing. So no, you can't just copy somebody's strategy, customer acquisition. It is for your business, your customer, your strategy.
Hello. Sir, as you said, she could have raised lakhs of money while working with hospitals or being a nutritionist. Then what is the difference in that and in your startup?
I would have just done something every day for 8 hours. No one would have known what is the power that is there in food beyond the few patients I would have consulted. There would be no legacy to leave behind. There would be no team to nurture. There would be no amazing growth stories to see. Suyash, who's sitting there, came on board as a nutritionist 2 years ago. Now he heads the supplement vertical. I wouldn't have been able to witness that.
My question is to both of you. Because both of you have spoken till now. So the first thing that you said, and now I've not even started taking baby step. It's just a contemplation and a strong urge to get out of my trajectory right now. I want to create a new trajectory. And as you said that you were a HR professional, and this is a totally the kind of knowledge you have just now a few seconds before so it's huge. But when the time when you were starting, now the first thing that you said was that before starting a startup you need to really know, only then you start there, right? But there is a contradiction, and that contradiction, I myself am a contradiction case, wherein I have been working in a field for the past 15-20 years, and I have now gathered the courage to say that I don't like this thing and I want to do something else. Okay. So this, shaken me a bit कि मैं सही सोच रही हूँ या नहीं. But 2 सेकंड पहले आपने जो बताया मुझे लगा कि नहीं, शायद मैं सही सोच रही हूँ, मुझे ट्राई करना चाहिए. But now in my case, it's like we have 3 friends sitting. Now one is technically very strong and she has a dream of setting up something, and she knows that she's my second friend, and we have a third one who is like, so we thought that we should do it. But how do you reverse this lack of knowledge? Now if I go getting knowledge for another 2 years, I can't do that, right? I want to get into this thing. So what are the challenges I need to know if I am not equipped enough?
You got your question.
Yeah.
So
Are into nutrition. I did my master's in nutrition. The jobs that were available in 2001 were like VLCC and gym jobs. I didn't want to do that, so I went to Xlara and I did HR, and then I went into HR. And then 15 years of HR ruined my health, so I went back to nutrition, and then this became an outcome of that. Yeah.
Like those 15 years, generally people say, जो experience है, that experience makes a person, right?
Yeah.
Was that helpful, the study that 15 years?
Of course, the nutrition, so the master's in nutrition was my foundation always. On that I could build this functional medicine practice. And the HR experience, of course, is allowing this to happen. If I was just a nutritionist with no experience in the corporate world and understanding people and cultures, I wouldn't have been able to do this. And I would have been very geeky. So we have our chief knowledge officer, Johan, who comes with extremely deep insights in nutrition. But he is extremely geeky, right? Like he can't do the other cross-functional stuff, right? So you bring people on board who are experts, where you know your limits. Like if you show me a balance sheet, and a P&L statement, 2.5 years ago, I would cry. कि ये मेरे को आता ही नहीं है, मैं कैसी entrepreneur हूँ. Then thankfully, he is there to kind of take care of that, right? Even now, my face changes when you open up that MIS sheet and then I have to look at numbers and all that, because that is not part of my brain. My investor knows that and he laughs about it. So anytime questions come around the numbers and all, he's part of the call. It is okay, right? The business is growing. One deficiency in one field is not collapsing the business. But had I not identified that this is an area that I don't have strength in, and let me find someone who can complement that strength, then this business wouldn't have grown. Like, you look at typical startup founders where there are three. Now, one person is the absolute geek, one person is more of the business strategy, revenues, marketing person, and one person is more of the operations person. It usually is that combination.
One is fundraising.
One is fundraising.
So I am Avinash Deshmukh. By now you must have guessed what I do. I keep quiet. So I just work on the back end, do the background stuff, work with my CS and my lawyer and my CAs, and talk to my investors, work with my only project team member. There is one more today, I joined one person. So that is what I do. I work in the background to keep the system running, keep the processes going, keep the hiring on, keep those things which can pull you down, pull a business down. She is the one who is more of a knowledge-based, the business-minded person who has lots of creativities, and she can take things to any level. I just put that, scaffolding behind her. Okay, you go and become a big person. I'll put the scaffolding so that you don't fall down. So that is what I do as an operation person. I have my own share of failed startups that qualifies me to become an operation consultant, but this thing happened by accident. So I think Kunal knows I worked with 3 failed startups. I worked with a long-running manufacturing startup, which eventually failed, but it was running smoothly, profitably, and gave me employment for 8 years. That eventually failed. 3 failed immediately, and the 5th one is running very successfully. There I realized that I am not the one who made for running startup, but keeping the startup operating. And I landed this job by accident, in fact. And when she offered me a job, she helped me out with operation. I don't understand. And I said, I'll do it for free, because that is what I have been doing for the last 25 years. I worked with oil companies. I am a chemical engineer by profession. So system दिमाग में घुसी हुई है. इंडियन ऑयल में काम किया है और ब्यूरोक्रेसी पूरी आ चुकी है. तो लॉयर, लीगल, इन सब के साथ काम करने में बड़ा मज़ा आता है, क्योंकि ये सब डॉक्यूमेंट ही बनाते रहते दिन भर. ये तो रोज़ भेजता है कुछ तो कंपनी के शेयर होल्डर्स के मेमोज, AGM के मेमोज, बोर्ड मीटिंग के मेमोज. तो शी जस्ट आस्क मी किधर साइन करने का, राइट. सो सनी एंड मी वो वर्क ऑन इट. सो वो जो पूरा सिस्टम ड्रिवन दिमाग था, ऑयल कंपनीज के साथ काम करके मिला. देन आई वर्क विद दिस डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स, एंड पीपल लाइक कुणाल केम इन टू माई लाइफ, who gave me a different perspective altogether, how I can utilize my skill in a better way. Rather than, being flamboyant and starting my own companies, I decided to take a back seat. And then I realized that this skill I can use for many companies, not only hers. I use this skill for my old profession, that is oil business. I consult a lot of oil companies. I give them ideas, I give them system, I give my technical knowledge also. I have a lot of technical domain expertise in oil industry. So I use my knowledge base there. I use my operation skills here. So it gave me a lot of width of industry exposure. Now I can, you think of an industry, I can give you a plan. How the operation should be, or how the scaling up should happen, or what are the precautions you need to take, or what are the safeguards you need to put in place, or how the system can be implemented. So a lot of companies are overzealous about system. They forget the creativity part. She handles the creativity, I handle the system. That is how it should work. If we are only focused on systems, you're losing that charm, you're losing that fun of, working in a startup, creating something new, building a company, building a culture, and getting all like-minded people around. Even if they're not like-minded, उनको ठोक के ठीक करके like-minded बना देते हैं. हम लोग बना देते हैं उनको like-minded यहाँ पे. So getting all these things in place, keep this engine running, getting your electricity bills paid on time, making sure that the internet is working, is what makes a startup successful. If you think only the social media post work, it does, but this is what is also more important. If your internet is not working, our entire business will collapse tomorrow. So that is what I do, sitting in the back end, try to find out where the things can go wrong, plug that loophole. Another Sunny will bring with another loophole. Chalo, let's plug this one. My CA will bring third one. ये taxation का issue है. Let's plug this one. So apart from doing firefighting, what I've realized, I'm really good at it. तो अच्छा लगता है काम करना, तो और भी अच्छा लग गया. And then doing this stuff introduced me into a whole new world of nutrition. I was healthy. I worked on my own health before I was introduced to iThrive. Then I realized that this health wala thing is entirely different. What she does or what iThrive does. Started working on my own health. Then I realized I can teach people how to work on their own health. I started coaching people with her. Now I realized that only bodily coaching is not enough. We need to work on the mind, the behavior, the pattern part. And that is where I found my niche. Apart from doing what I do with operation, I coach people on their mind. I coach people on the patterns or the habits. What is preventing them for making those lifestyle choices which can make them disease free. So it is another, world of opportunities which opened up, and she is selling my skill at a premium and making lots of money in the process. So you never know. I just kept myself open. What are the things I can do? What are things I can learn? How I can contribute differently in any company or any startup or any event for that matter. I do a lot of volunteering work with Sudhi knows, Nitin knows. We do a lot of work with Pune running. We do a lot of social work in his school. So those things also came handy. The kind of experiences I had, the kind of experiences I have here, I can use those experiences in the work I do on social level. So the entire life, if you look at it, it is built around keeping myself open. And one thing I always realize, keeping myself free. So I am not tied down ki I have to report here at 9:30 and I have to close by 5:30. These guys know I am sleeping at any time and I am getting up at any time. But I do what I do is, which keeps the engine running and keeps me at the back end. That is where I find my comfort. That is where I find my peace. So I don't have to attend interviews. I have to attend to investors, but our investors like gem of a person. So उससे बात करने में बड़ा मज़ा आता है. बाकी इंटरव्यू देने का काम मैडम का है, सोशल मीडिया पे रहने का काम मैडम का है, और मैं पीछे से बम्बू लेके खड़ा रहता हूँ, गिरना मत.
He is not shared two very important things. One is he is not worked in IOCL. He is like a very senior position gentleman. So I don't know how people like him, because nowadays first thing people ask is
Equity, yeah.
first thing. So that time I was surprised. Again I'm today surprised.
Don't get surprised. I am like this only.